All right, Miss Rand, this proof, I can already see it falling apart, and I can already see that it's going to fall apart much more easily than the last proof. So even if my kid interrupts me this time, I don't think I'll even have to pause the video. All right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at the statements, and let's take a look at the reasons. First of all, I'm going to just go ahead and write down the givens, because before you even look at your picture, you love to do that. So PQ is congruent to PS, and QR is congruent to SR, and those are given. I should probably be labeling this 1 and 1. My last proof, I was tired. I had literally just walked through the door. I didn't even really label with numbers, so I'm back in the game now. I've had a drink and I'm ready to roll, a Pepsi. Okay, so now for what I can see, you want to prove that QT is congruent to ST. So what I'm doing here is I'm like, okay, well, I'm assuming this is P. I took the picture with my phone before you left, and I'm assuming that's P. So they're already giving me that PQ is congruent to PS. They're also giving me that QR is congruent to SR. I don't know why they're labeling these angles 1 and 2. I don't know. I don't plan to use it. But as soon as I see that, I say to myself, oh, wowza. Just by my reflexive property, I have another side that I can say is equal, and therefore I'll have this triangle here congruent to this triangle here. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the large triangles congruent, and from that, I'm going to get these smaller triangles congruent, and then be able to say this. So the next step for me is going to be PR is congruent to PR. That's your fave, reflexive. And from that, I already know that PQR, that triangle, is congruent to triangle PRS. And that's by side, side, side. Side, side, side. And the whole point to that is now that I have, I'm going to just erase all my extra junk here. Now that I have these larger triangles congruent, I automatically know by side, 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 these were congruent, side, side, side. So those sides correspond, those sides correspond, and those sides correspond. So this angle, this is a P over here, I now know is congruent to this angle by corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So you love to label them. If you want to label them angle 3 and angle 4, go for it. I'm going to say angle QPR is congruent to angle QPR is congruent to angle RPS. RPS. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Alrighty, Roo. And now that I have these angles congruent, originally I already had from up here these sides congruent, right? So now I have these sides congruent. I'm saying these angles are congruent. And this side right here, I can say is congruent to itself by reflexive property. PT is congruent, that side, that segment's congruent to PT, that side, by reflexive property. And what that then gives me is by side, angle, side, PQT is actually congruent to PTS. Triangle PQT is congruent to triangle PTS, and that's by side, angle, side, congruent to side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. All right, as soon as I know that, I now know that QT, that side, is congruent to TS or ST, either way. So now that I had that this triangle is congruent to this triangle, I automatically know that side must be congruent to that side. Awesome. I really probably shouldn't have used all those squiggles. I probably should have just said, and this would be corresponding parts of congruent triangles or congruent. Probably could have had dashes. Dashes may have been a little more understandable in the picture. Those I was given was congruent. This right here, I know is congruent to itself. Had those angles being congruent, and from that, this triangle is congruent to this triangle down here, and it gave me that those two sides are definitely congruent. All right, lots of dashes. Hopefully that helps. That one was a little more doable. Take care.